Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Hope you'll come back often and tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to go to Father Ron Walters, who is not feeling well right now because he was dumb enough to get COVID for the second or third time. But Father Walters, thank you for being here with us.
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and the beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
And Father, while I was joking with you about getting COVID again, wish you all the best. Hope you're well soon and it's not a very serious case this time.
Thank you.
If you have not gone to our website, I encourage you to do so, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe to it. You'll get a weekly email about the login link that you'll need to join our show, who's going to be on it, and so forth. And we hope that you'll do that to find out about what New Tracks is doing and what we're all about. We have another My Build coming up in September, on the 20th of September. And Chris Course is our host for those segments. So Chris, I'd like to get some comments from you about that.
Oh, thanks, Jim. All right, I'm going to advertise two tonight. The first one is the next upcoming My Build, September 20th. It's a free-for-all, so send us whatever you're working on, whatever you found, maybe something you found in a garage sale, can't quite figure out what it is or what to do with it. Hopefully we can all learn something from that. And the other is the October challenge, which is Halloween. So we're looking for haunted houses, abandoned buildings, abandoned railroad cars, scarecrows, derelict engines, fall scenes, pumpkins, trick-or-treaters, that sort of thing. Anything you can do to that encompasses the thoughts and the spirits behind Halloween. Please send us those photos as well. You can email me those photos, railrunner130@hotmail.com, and we will be sure to put those in the appropriate month. Hopefully this seems to be a pretty popular thing, these theme shows. So we really look forward to seeing what people bring to the table on that. So I'll give it back to you, Jim.
Thank you so much. But seriously, the My Builds are very popular. We get an awful lot of views for them. And it's because the people want to see what everybody is working on. It encourages them, I think, to try some new things. And I think it's also encouraging just to know that people are actually modeling. And this is not something that they're just dreaming about, but that this is what people are really working on. So the more people that can show what they're doing, in my opinion, the better off you are. But thanks so much, Chris. We really appreciate it. Well, now I want to start the show tonight. And this one, for a while today, I didn't think I would be here because of the hurricane that was coming into Florida. But we got lucky and got through that. But this is an awfully special night for me. It was a little bit over 6 years ago when I started writing New Tracks for Dan Daugherty's two magazine, S-Scale Resource and O-Scale Resource. And I've written articles, New Tracks articles in those now for every issue for the last 6 years. And I never dreamed that from those first articles, would come a weekly Zoom show that we've been doing every week, at least once a week, for 4 years now. And I never in my wildest imagination imagined that we would be able to create a scholarship program for young model railroaders funded 100% by the donations from model railroaders that were watching the shows or reading the articles. And that to me is something that is truly a dream. There's nothing that I can say but thank you to the people that not only participated in making the dream come true because of their hard work, their ideas, their encouragement, their don't give up attitude, plus the people that donated the money for the first year. Keep in mind, the donations we got for this first year's program were not tax deductible. We didn't have a 501c3 then. We didn't have some of the professional help that we have that is all pro bono. The attorneys that got us the 501c3, the people like the chairman that I'm going to be introducing shortly, the knowledge that the people involved in the show and involved in working on the scholarship program is just unbelievable to me that we've been able to pull this together. And frankly, that the modelers that watched the show gave their money and trusted us enough that we could pull this together and make this happen. And for that, we're all so very grateful, and thank you is such an understatement to make to you. But we want to say thank you very sincerely to all of you. Also, we want to say thank you to the very impressive young modelers who submitted the applications for our scholarship. When we started this, other than the Walters Corporation that started about 2 years ago, offering two $2,500 scholarships by their corporation to young model railroaders. No one else had done this as far as I know. And I was so impressed with Walters is why I thought, well, if a company can do this and thinks enough of the young modelers to invest their capital in it, why can't the model railroading community do this? Why can't we all get behind a program that supports getting young modelers involved in model railroading, encourages them to get an education so that they can provide the kind of leadership that our hobby is going to need in the future? And that's what New Tracks tried to do. And that's what you all have, as viewers of New Tracks and readers of the articles, that's what you've made possible. And tonight is the crowning jewel as far as I'm concerned, because we're going to be able to award our first scholarship to an awfully well-deserved young modeler. And with that, let me turn this over to Bob Davidson, who is the chairman of New Tracks Scholarship Committee. And frankly, we couldn't have done this without his leadership. So Bob, thank you so very much. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, you're very welcome, Jim. And let me say on behalf of the rest of the committee that your vision is really what drove us to make this such a success and to begin the planning for the coming years of this program. So thank you. And I do want to thank the other members of the committee, Phil Edholm, Kevin McCumber, and Jeff Jordan. We've recently been also joined by Jim Allen and some others, and we really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. As Jim said, it really was record-breaking that we were able to not only incorporate, but we received our 501c3 from the IRS, and also were recognized by the state of Florida as a nonprofit charity in record time. We did it excuse me, in about 3 months' time. And that's just unheard of. And it's because of the commitment of the rest of the committee members. So thanks to all of them. And of course, thanks to you, Jim. As Jim said, we began the solicitation process online in January. with a closing date of July 1st. We wound up receiving 7 applications for the scholarship, and they were all wonderful. I mean, we were overwhelmed. We thought we might get 2 or 3. Excuse me. We wound up with 7 really outstanding applicants, but it was clear to us that the recipient, who you'll meet here in a moment, was our clear choice to be the inaugural recipient of the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. So let me introduce to all of you the recipient of this year's scholarship award of $1,000, Ethan Bernstein. Ethan is a junior at Johns Hopkins University. I think today was the 3rd day of classes, so we appreciate your being here tonight with us, and congratulations, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Bob. I'm honored to be the first recipient of New Tracks Modeling, and I first just want to thank New Tracks for everything you've done to grow the modeling community and creating this environment of passing on what modelers have learned to each other to create a very mutually beneficial culture. It's awesome. And I also did not know that, there could be such thing as a model writing scholarship. And that is pretty awesome to know that, my hobby can get that kind of thing. And that is truly awesome. Then also I'd like to thank the band track family, anyone who's watching or is attending tonight. They've kind of fostered me not only in my model writing skills, but also in my ability to share what I do in the hobby with others through writing articles for the newsletter, and then that progressing to the NRAIL side, and then now to NMRA, and all the NMRA people who are on here tonight. They thank you to you all just welcoming me into the team and letting me, grow my own interests and help others grow their interests as well. So pretty awesome. I guess I'll just start with a little bit about myself.
That's great. Please do.
Yeah, so I'm a junior at Johns Hopkins University. I'm studying material science and engineering. And my interests in model railroading, I mean, like all of us, I think we're kind of born with some strange connection to trains. For me, I know I've always had a strong engineering interest. And, I think one of my first words, at least that my parents tell me, was sailboat. So, going off of that, I've always been interested in transportation of just about anything that moves, floats, flies, all of it. But trains really caught my interest. And it started with, Thomas the Tank Engine and all the little diecast trains, which were pretty close to N scale size. Now I look back at it, which is pretty interesting correlation. But eventually that got to, G scale Christmas train around the tree. And then the big one that really, I think, started to spark my interest specifically in electric model trains was the Wegmans train. Wegmans had a train in the store that would go around above the coolers. It was a G scale train. And one year my parents got me an O scale YNL starter set. That was a Wegmans train. And I have that to this day. We still run it at Christmas. I love that thing so much. And that then got me into looking for what are the smaller trains. There's other scales. All these things started popping up. And with the access to the internet, found some model train stores, got my first N scale engine, then my first N scale starter set, the Encato starter set. And that's the rest is history. Took off from there.
That's wonderful. Now, you mentioned in your essay, which was a wonderful essay, that you were always attracted to things that are small. And now that's kind of influencing your course of study in university. So maybe you could talk a little about that.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun connection to make in my essay, but it is very true. So I've always, like my mom, I would always keep these small little trucks and stuff for me in her purse and carry them around. And those, I thought those are the best things ever. There's your little trucks, you can put them in your pocket, play around with them. Most of them were pretty close to N scale. Some of them do grace my layout to this day. And so that connection, has always been with me. I've always been searching for, what's smaller? And now I realize that interest is just because I find it very fascinating and really neat how small mechanics can be applied. And so things like, you can take a motor that is the same in an O scale engine and put it all the way down to like a T scale engine, right? Go to a scale from 1 to 50 proportion all the way down to 1 to 450 or whatever it is that T scale is. The T scale is becoming my next interest as well, but N scale is definitely the dominant one. And so that's always stuck with me, having these interest in small toys and just assorted things along those lines. And then eventually during high school, I started doing research in a class that it was an independent research class. We could choose what we wanted to research. And I knew I wanted to research something in the medical world because that's starting to blossom very big in terms of an engineering application. And so I was looking into that, and I just started searching nanomedicine just because I knew the word nano, and surely there's a medicine that follows it. And that actually is a very new field. And it's an interest both fed from microelectronics, like in the model train community, and also an interest in biology, and that nanomedicine can combine both. So that was some pretty cool research I did that got me connected to big universities, including Hopkins, where I met one of the professors there who was in the material science department, which introduced me to that field. And that's what I've stuck with. And I went to Hopkins after that because they have a fantastic math sci program. So I'm very much enjoying and finally getting into some of the upper level classes and pursuing my interest in nanomaterials.
Fantastic. So maybe last question before we meet some of your friends. You influenced a family vacation this summer, and I was wondering how that went and if you could tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, well, my parents also, I owe a lot of thanks to them, of course, for supporting my interests and paying for my interests and raising me and all that awesome stuff. But yes, I finally convinced them that a lot of train lines go through scenery that is otherwise uninhabited. And one of the most insane railroading environments in the world is that in the upper north of all of the continents, but especially Norway and in Scandinavia. And they're well known for their scenic train rides. So we planned this whole trip going between Bergen and Oslo, that's the capital of Norway. And we started in Bergen. This trip ended up getting a little bit complicated by a big rainstorm that moved through Norway while we were there, Storm Hans. And that actually closed the rail line between Bergen and Oslo. So we actually could not make that trip. But nonetheless, we did make it to probably one of the coolest train lines I've ever ridden on. It's called a scenic railroad, but it is largely, I think, funded still by the major railroads in Norway. And it's they call it like the 20-kilometer route. So it's 20 kilometers, has 20 tunnels, each of which were hand dug and pickaxed back in the 20s, I believe. And the tunnels range from just a few feet to a kilometer, I think, several kilometers at their longest. And it's actually like a helix inside of the mountain. And that was really, really cool to see. Snow sheds, everything that you would find in rough terrain. And we rode on that railroad. I think we went up and down that thing 5 times. So we definitely got a lot of train time in Norway, and that was really cool. And hopefully many more train trips to come.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear. I hope everyone can see just how proud we are of Ethan and how this is the future of our hobby. And he's such a good spokesperson. So what I'd like to turn right now to Chris Quinlan. I see that you're online, Chris. Chris is the president of the Baltimore Area N-Track Club, and hoping you can say some kind words about Ethan for us.
All right, Bob, thank you so much. It's a huge honor to be here with Ethan tonight. And first of all, thank you guys so much for this New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Program. It's absolutely awesome, and it's a huge honor to have Ethan in our club and for him to be the first recipient of your scholarship program, and hopefully the first of many others down the road. I wish something like this had been around when I was Ethan's age and younger. But I mean, there's not enough nice things that I can say about Ethan. He's been impressive since he joined our club as a middle school student. Ethan, you were in middle school when you joined, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 6th grade, I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, ever since he became a member of our club, even as a youth, like he already had like this mentorship, leadership aurora about him, and he's led the way on a lot of stuff in the club. He's taught us all a lot about printing, 3D printing. He's probably our best writer in the club in regards to newsletter articles and teaching people about what he's doing with his layout and different projects and sub hobbies he has within our hobby, and just absolutely loves to share what he has learned and what he's doing. And it makes all of us much better modelers. And it's inspiring that Ethan is as young as he is. He's the youngest member in our club. He just, like I said, he just holds his own, and he has ever since day one. And you already talked a little bit about all the stuff that he does outside of the club. He does a lot of volunteer work. He's doing really well in school. He has a really awesome career ahead of him. He's a well-rounded individual. He plays tennis. He helps coach tennis to youth. Just absolutely amazing. And I think everybody needs to know an Ethan, and every train club needs to have an Ethan. I don't know if there's much more I can say. Like I said, I could go on for a long time. But Ethan, congratulations. We're really proud of you, and honored to have you as one of us. And he's probably one of our he's a future band track president himself. So
you've just been committed, Ethan.
All right, no pressure, Ethan.
No pressure. Well, thank you, Chris, very much. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you so
Next,
much.
I'd like to introduce Andy Zimmerman. Andy is the Standards and Conformance Manager for the NMRA, as well as other titles. Andy, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the shout out there. So just to kind of give a little bit of background, I'm the Standards Conformance Manager for the NMRA at the national level. I'm also a Sunshine Region Director at Large here in Florida, and I'm also a director for NRail. So I wear a lot of hats, and there's more hats than that, but I will just go with those for the moment. I'm also the president of the Big Bend Model Railroad Association here in Tallahassee, Florida as well. So we'll wear at least 4 hats, and I'm switching all the time. So I hide it under my senior chief hat so that I can keep a consistent look.
Yeah.
But Ethan came to us a little while ago, and to tell the truth, when he applied for standards and conformance, and I spoke with Mark Jewett, and at first we were like, well, he's kind of young. What do you think? So, so we got together and we're like, hey, he's motivated. He seems like he really wants to give this thing a shot. So let's give him a chance, put some calipers in his hand. Let's see what he can do. So, and Nathan has never failed to impress. He is always motivated. He always turns out a good product. I don't know if it's because he's in college right now, but every report is turned out clean with very few corrections. There may be some minor things and some Oxford comments that got to go in there, but that's about it. He's always dead on with his work. And if by chance, like in the very early on, if by chance we found something that needed to be corrected, very humble, wasn't a bunch of blustering and or anything else like I get from some of the older folks, like, how dare you question my work? Never, not once from Ethan. It's like, okay, I'll take care of it. So, and then away it goes. And if he thinks that, hey, maybe you're mistaken, maybe you didn't quite catch everything, he's very quick to come back and say, hey, did you consider this? Because this is what I was looking at. And, I'm not so set in my ways that I can't say, oops, stand corrected, my bad. So, but always does an outstanding job, outstanding product. He's got numerous N scale write-ups that are in the queue for the NMRA magazine. He's one of the big reasons why we have so many N scale offerings, and that people are noticing that the N scale has taken hold with the NMRA. At this last convention, we had quite a few people saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to join the NMRA. I'm an N scaler, and I never would have before, but I've noticed that there's a huge shift away from being just HO centric, and that they have O scale, S scale, N scale articles, and you guys are doing a fantastic job with the write-ups, and he surprised a lot of people, including manufacturers. I'll give you one quick example. Got a close friend of mine who he's the owner of Rail Scale. Anyway, Railsmith, excuse me, I got it wrong. But the guy from Rail Scales also. But Railsmith, he has some N scale products, and they're custom the custom products. Well, they are Pacific Northwest products, and I model a lot of Great Northern, Northern Pacific, SP and SS, and so I sent Nathan some of his cars because he was so reticent to send anything in to be evaluated for conformance and inspection. He thought maybe it was a negative thing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this to Nathan and let's just turn Nathan loose. So Nathan did a fantastic job with the write-up. And when he got all done, I forwarded that write-up to the owner. And when he read it and he looked at it, he grabbed me at the convention in Dallas and said, you know what? I didn't really realize what it was all about. I kind of thought maybe it might be a negative thing, like you guys are, gunning for people basically if they don't have their stuff, just exactly right and exactly prototypical and exactly. I'm like, no. And so when I said I tried to explain to you that this is a good thing, and he said, well, maybe it was the word warrant that was throwing me off because you give me a conformance warrant, and usually a warrant is a bad thing. I'm like, well, not in this instance. It's not like a legal warrant. So, but anyway, so he got a copy of Nathan's write-up, and he saw what how it's going to be presented in the NMRA magazine, and he was just thrilled to death. So now he's all about it now. So Nathan made him a believer. So
That's wonderful.
Just because of his fantastic work. So it's because I have people like this on my team, because I have people like Nathan who are motivated like Nathan and push like Nathan does, that the conformance team is almost 80 people strong. And we've got, manufacturers, DCC manufacturers, locomotive manufacturers, rolling stock. We just picked up Pico. They're going to join in the manufacturers meetings just because they're all starting to see the benefit. So, and they wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for the team just pushing forward all the time. And Nathan makes it hard to keep up because he's always out in front. So, and he always delivers. So I'm very proud to have Nathan on my team, or Ethan on my team. And if I said Nathan before, I apologize. I did it to him at the very beginning, and he called me on it. Anyway, so I'm very proud to have Ethan on my team. He's a hard charger and a go-getter. So this is well-deserved, Ethan. I'm proud to see you that you earned it and that you're receiving it.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Randy. We appreciate it. Let me say this.
Bob, let me interrupt you a minute.
Sure.
Andy, before you go, I'll be honest with you. The standards have been one of the hallmarks of the NMRA since it's first started. It was part of the reason why originally back in the late 30s, the NMRA was originally put together. How about coming on our show sometime and talking to the modeler, not the manufacturer necessarily, but to the modeler? Why should we care what your committee does? What is in other words, what's your committee done for me lately?
So a lot of things, it's unfortunate that you don't see the hard work that goes in behind the curtain. It's kind of like being in IT. So long as everything works and so long as everything is running, everybody just says thank you and keep moving forward. You don't hear anything, attaboys or people giving you positive kudos or something. But let something go wrong. Well, why doesn't this car made up with this car? Why are these couplers different? Why are they different heights? Why are the wheel sets, why are they 34.5 as opposed to 33s or 36s in Pran scale? Why does this decoder not fit into, why can't I put this decoder into this engine and just make it work? And the reason why you can do those things is because of standards and conformance. So we work with the manufacturers to ensure that the DCC products work the way they're supposed to, that the rolling stock is consistent from everything from the axles to the wheel sets, coupler heights, coupler boxes. Nate or Ethan can probably name more of it off than I can, faster than I can. That probably because he's younger, but and probably smarter. But anyway, it's because we do those things that we're keeping them honest, and they see those standards, and they manufacture their products to those standards so that, you know, equipment that you purchase will run on somebody else's layout without any issue. And that includes the track too, the width on the frogs, or the the width of the track, and all sorts of things. So and the NMRA continues to update the standards constantly. We, as innovations happen and as new things are coming out, we're called upon to re-engineer or engineer the product, take a look at it, make sure it's going to work with everything, make some comments back to the manufacturers, and then we develop a standard, and that's the standard that all the manufacturers produce their stuff to.
Right.
And when some manufacturers decide to do something a little bit shady, it's the NMRA that everybody calls.
Right. One of the things that I'd like to mention to you, maybe for your consideration, that you might want to take a look at, are the instructions that are in the kits that the manufacturers are producing. Because there's a lot of problems with a lot of the instructions that are in the kits. And the modelers buy the kits, and in effect, they end up not being able to build the kits. So the kits go into the closet. The manufacturer never gets a repeat customer. The hobbyist never tries to build any more kits. And therefore, the skills that have built the hobby up to this point don't get passed on to the next generation. So if you guys, in my opinion, you guys ought to maybe take a look at those instructions that are being produced by manufacturers in the kits, and come up with some kind of standards that our hobby manufacturers ought to consider if they're really going to produce kits and expect them to be successful.
Well, we can definitely do the first step and talk to the manufacturers to begin with at a manufacturers meeting.
Fantastic. I've got an article that just came out today in O-Scale Resource Magazine about this subject. And I'll be glad to send you a copy of it, or if you get a chance to take a look at it.
Please
I
do.
really encourage you maybe to have your committee take a look at the instruction situation.
Sure, send it to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for being here with us.
No worries.
Excuse me, Bob. Hate to interrupt you.
That's
Actually,
okay,
real quick,
Jim.
if I may add on to that conversation, like just as an example, with some of the things we do to address like problems like that. So for example, some N-scalers contacted the NMRA saying, this train car definitely doesn't work. The wheel sets are wrong. And so we took a look at it. I purchased some cars, looked at them, measured them. They don't conform. And from there, we can go and contact the manufacturer and we're trying to be in contact with the manufacturer and see what they can do. Can they make new wheel sets? Could they fix the cars for future releases so that we don't have the problem occurring? So that's like an example of what happens when something goes wrong that you might not see behind the scenes, like Andy was mentioning.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I do want to mention that we were going to have Gordy Robinson, who's president of the NMRA, but he's under the weather back home in the UK. But he does send his congratulations and best wishes to Ethan. So again, you're getting noticed. And I don't see Mark Jewetts here. He had said that he was having some power problems.
So I think it was me that was having the power problems. Mark got called away, so
Okay.
had a quick email and said,
All right.
unfortunately, I'm going to be, I got pulled away. So, and Mark desperately wanted to be here to be part of it, because he is very impressed when Nathan is a young man and young model railroaders.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, Ethan, you certainly have quite a following. So again, congratulations to you. And is there anything anyone in the New Tracks audience tonight would like to add? Please do. Or any questions you might have. Well, hearing none, again, thank you, Ethan. And it's just, again, it's been such an honor, and to have you as our first recipient, and you've set the bar high for for the future. Needless to say, you're invited to apply again next year. And speaking of next year, I want everyone to know that our goal for the 24-25 academic year, which will be awarded next August, is to grant at least $4,000 in scholarships. January 1st, we'll be announcing how that will be divvied up, whether it'll be 4 $1,000 scholarships, excuse me, or 2 $2,000 scholarships, or whatever the mix is. I will say that we have already, not even into September, we have basically funded our first scholarship already through the new nonprofit. So everyone is certainly welcome to get involved. We are actively looking for new committee members to come and help us with fundraising and with soliciting applications for the scholarship. You can certainly just go to the newtracks.com, newtracksmodeling.com, click on the scholarship tab, and there are tabs there for just general information, for getting an application, or for most importantly right now, making a donation. And your donations are all fully tax deductible. All the information is right there on the website that acknowledges our 501c3 and our recognition by the state of Florida. We do use a platform called Zephy, which is specifically for nonprofits. So we pay no credit card fees. We pay no money management fees. 100% of your donation will go to the scholarship. So please support us and support young modelers like Ethan, because one of the things that we realized, and you see a lot of gray beards on the show tonight, we've got to have the next generation. These are the people who are going to be making the innovations and the things we can't even dream about. I mean, who would have dreamed 20 years ago that you'd have a 3D printer in your basement, as I do, or DCC units fitting inside N-scale locomotives. It's just crazy what's happening. And it's the young people that are making that happen. So please support the scholarship, tell your friends. And again, Ethan, thanks so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. And you are a great ambassador, not only for the scholarship, but for our entire hobby. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll turn it back to Jim.
And Ethan, I appreciate so much you starting to become a part of our team, because in the future, Ethan will be back on the show talking about the needs of young modelers and where they're coming from for the hobby and what they see as the future and what they'd like to see more of about the hobby. So Ethan, thank you so much for wanting to do that for us.
Of course, look forward to it.
Well, listen, thanks so much for everybody that participated in tonight's program. We really thank you, Ethan, for submitting your application. It was really outstanding, and thank you for sharing your experiences and your educational goals with us. And that's what was really exciting for a lot of us. I know that all of our model railroad community wishes you great success in your future, both in your education, in your professional career, and in your future model railroading. We believe you have a very bright future ahead of you, and appreciate the opportunity to provide in some small way some of the financing needed to help you get there. To say I am proud or really thankful for all of the support and hard work put in by so many modelers who helped make this first year scholarship program a great success is an understatement, a great understatement. However, I primarily want to thank all of the New Tracks modeling volunteers whose hard work and dedication made this scholarship possible. Special thanks naturally are given to Bob Davidson, the chairman of our committee, Jeff Jordan, our attorney, who did the pro bono work to get a 501c3 in our Florida corporation. Jeff is a counsel with Arden Fox Shift LLP in Washington, D.C. And the other committee members, Phil Edholm and Kevin McCumber, and Jim Allen, who is also our webmaster. Thank you so much to all of you. It goes without saying, we also owe a great debt of appreciation and thanks to the model railroaders in the community whose financial contributions made all of this possible, including Rick Barton, Chris Corse, Greg Cassidy, Pat Rivard, Bob Davidson, Bill Gearson, Father Ron Walters, Jeff Zigley, David Minard, Greg Wart, Scott Gear, Dan Dowdy, Kevin McCumber, David Schultz, Henry Primus, David Vaughn, and Larry Price. Guys, without your help, we never would have been able to get here. And again, thank you is an understatement, but it's the best that I can do tonight. I also want to thank all the volunteers who exhibited the promotional banners. And by the way, Bob Davidson, whose company Exhibits Plus, designed and produced those banners for us. Thank you so much, Bob, for that. But we had volunteers take them around to various train shows and events around the organizations. And we had many organizations give us free space, both for a table and for our literature and to be able to put up our banners. So thank you to the Amherst Train Show, Scott Gear's Great Scale Model Railroad Show in Timonium, the O-Scale Central's National Convention in Denver, the Association of Professional Model Makers Annual Convention, the National Retail Hobby Stores Association Annual Convention, the numerous local and regional events, as well as those organizations that publicly supported our efforts. That includes Atlas, the NMRA, and various local clubs and the NMRA regions and divisions that published our articles and helped support our efforts to get the scholarship known about. As I say, we're the only organization, volunteers, that's ever done this before. We didn't really have any guidelines or this is how you do these kind of things. So we learn by trying and getting the job done. And the committee deserves a tremendous amount of thank yous for all of their hard work and effort. We offer the STEAM scholarship program. Instead of the STEM program, because we believe art is a vital part of model railroading. And therefore we wanted to include the art education part in the scholarship capabilities for the young modelers. We encourage any local club or other organization or business to join with us and to help make this scholarship program even bigger and grander than it is this first year. We'd like to offer larger scholarships. We'd like to offer more scholarships. We have the organization, we have the procedures now in place to be able to do that. And as you can tell by the kind of quality that we have in the first winter, the needs of our local young model railroaders and their interest in trying to gain financial help for their education is obvious. So we need your support, we need your help, we need you to volunteer, we need you to open your checkbooks. Donating to us is as simple as we can possibly make it. And as Bob said, 100% of whatever you donate goes straight to the scholarship itself. The overhead cost for new tracks and so forth is a separate fund that is solicited separately from this, and it is it's non. It has nothing to do with this. There's no salaries involved in this to anybody. Nobody makes a penny off of this. We pay bills such as the Zoom bill, such as the website bill, and we pay the organization to who the scholarship goes to. Other than that, that's the only expenses that we have for our program. We believe that the young model railroaders today deserve all the educational help that we can possibly give them so that the hobby continues to have the outstanding leadership to guide the hobby into the future. And gentlemen, it is going to need that. The more that I talk to modelers around the country, the more that I hear some of the tales of what different manufacturers are dealing with these days, the more I'm convinced that the future leadership is critical for our hobby to succeed. And I think that the help that we can provide to the young modelers in our hobby right now could be critical for how well the hobby succeeds in the future. So if you can support us, thank you so very much. If you can help us get the word out about our scholarship, thank you so much. If you have some spare time, you want to work with us trying to develop the scholarship and make it better, thank you so much. My email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com, and I'd love to hear from you. And so that's it. That pretty well is what we wanted to do tonight. Again, Ethan, so we're so proud of you and wish you the very best at Johns Hopkins. And we will talk to you soon again. Well, moving on to our next segment, we want to go back to, again, Bob Davidson. And this is Bob's last time to do this, to tell us how much money we can save by going to buy his dollar store treasures so that we have more money to donate to the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship Fund.
Oh, boy.
Welcome, Bob.
Yeah, I knew you were going to tie that in somehow, Jim. Oh, boy. Please share our screen and let's get this thing going. Well, again, welcome to Dollar Store Treasures for Model Railroaders, my weekly visit to the local dollar store shop. Let's have a little fancy introduction. Look at that. And again, everything that you'll see tonight came out of the Dollar Tree shop, not necessarily this one. So starting off tonight in the hardware aisle, I was walking down the other day, and look what I found. Some electronics duster, basically compressed air or compressed nitrogen. But for $1.25, it has the little, you can see the little tube on the right that you stick into the orifice in the trigger. And if you need to dust something off, clean, reach back on the layout to get rid of some dust. Again, for $1.25, it's a lot cheaper than what you're going to find in the hardware store. So, then going down the kitchen aisle, I think I got a couple of things here. Heavy duty scouring pads. I use these to burnish stuff. If you don't want to, Tom Farrell has shown a lot about how he uses his kind of custom X-Acto blades to do his scoring on some lumber, but sometimes you just want to rough something up. And these are much heavier, much coarser than the typical green block that you may get for cleaning dishes. So these are really neat, and I do use these to kind of score up paint, scratch off paint if you want to get down to an undercoating to do some aging and stuff like that. So, and you get 4 of them. I think they're about 4 inches by 6 inches. And you get 4 of them for $1.25. So not a bad deal. Further down that aisle, or this was in the kitchen aisle, actually, sorry. Oh yeah, I guess that's where we are. The parchment paper, if you recall back when I was doing my workshop tips and tricks, I talked about using parchment paper over a metal sheet with magnets to make up jigs and templates. And the neat thing is most glue will not stick to parchment paper. I tried it with not only the white glue and wood glues, but also with the super glues. It just doesn't stick to parchment. So this is a big roll of it, and I think the last time I paid about $6 on Amazon just to get it. And again, $1.25, you get a 20-foot roll, and it's 12 inches wide. So it certainly is large enough to, cut off a piece and use it underneath your assembly. So, and then in the back to school aisle, I use white chalk a lot and I just scrape it off and that gives me some dusting to do some weathering on stuff. And this is enough chalk that'll last me the rest of my life. It's 100 sticks of chalk in this box, again, for $1. So buy a box, you can share it with everybody you know, and you'll still have more than you'll ever use. So there's just a lot of stuff. Right now, there's a lot of back to school stuff. In the springtime, if you remember, we had some great little clamps that they had because they're used in gardening. So it pays to go by every month or so and just see what they have at the store. So I do want to thank, I've gotten a lot of kind words from many of you about some of the items that you've seen here. I don't think we're as impressive as doing some of the bits and pieces stuff that Sherrill was showing us how to get stuff for totally free, but it's pretty close at $1.25. So I do appreciate it. And we're going to take a few weeks off here, a month or so off, and we'll be back. And some of the workshops will be coming back. We're going to look at, we're going to do a few weeks on soldering. And then I also hope to do a few weeks on laser cutting as well as 3D printing. So both filament and then also resin. So we'll see you later in the fall. Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to help out and save everybody some money.
All right, I thank you so much for doing these. They've been great and everybody seems to enjoy them. So I wish you a happy vacation and look forward to seeing you later.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Bob. Well, now I want to turn to Gary Sherrill, who is building his machine shop. Gary, welcome for this. Looking forward to seeing how you complete this one.
Thanks very much, Jim. Share screen here. Okay. Did everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna finish the. Oh, here we go again. Sorry, folks. I don't know why this jumps back to number 1. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Basically showcasing the building. What I had done was I showed you the finished building last week, and a friend of mine, when I started this project, a good friend of mine, Pat Rivard, he said to me, well, why don't you light this? And he gave me some lights, these little LED lights. So I figured, okay, I'm going to try that. So this just shows a picture of the lights, and I'd install them into the roof with the wiring, all that stuck up into the roof for now. And this is the machine shop looking inside. What I had done was I had scratch built the crane from my bits and pieces box, and I had these different machine tools that I've collected over the years. I have a little bit of a collection of these. So I painted them up and, as you can see, placed them inside the building. The workbenches are, if you remember back a while when I was doing the little bits and pieces thing, I had actually made, I lost my cursor, made molds. And this is plaster. And then what I've done is put a little benches, or not benches, but legs and that under them, and made like a work table. Here I've done a little fold up piece of paper, act as a set of plans. Gentlemen cleaning the floor. Some of the propane tanks and chains and some of the people inside. So just basically looking down, these are radiators. This building is steam heated. And you'll see, I go to the next one, they're looking in the front with the doors open. They've got a diesel unit in there they're repairing and put a little couple of things around like a barrel and a box with supplies. And you can see the workers. And this is looking in the windows. Just to give you an idea that, you know, when you look in, there is actually things to see in there. And another shot showing the interior crane hanging here. Next one, another shot from the back looking through the building out to the front. Different lathe here, lathe presser, milling machine over here. And again, another angle. Gentleman down having a coffee. This gentleman's cleaning the shop. This gentleman's talking to one of the workers there. And looking the other way, so you can see here the benches. Put up some shelving on the walls. I actually do have posters on these walls. I don't think I have a picture of that. This is the front, and in the summertime, these doors would be open, probably left open all the time. But in the winter, I added this door into the small door so that they can get in and out in the wintertime without letting all that heat out. And the roof on. This little thing down here is intentional because the wood would start to rot. Hasn't been repaired yet. And the roof on, a little bit of weathering. Highlight these are slate shingles. And okay, so what I'd done, what Pat had talked me into lighting this building. So I have the lights in. And what I had done was I had taken a plastic pipe, just big enough that I can get the wires down in. And these are connector clips. So that if I have to take the roof off, I can just disconnect these little clips. And these wires go down in this pipe that I made painted gray. And it's to sort of look like a little drainage type pipe that would be in the corner. And I ran it down through the bottom of the building, and you can see the wires sticking out here, and they go to underneath the layout and then over to a switch that I just turn the switch on, the lights come on. A little closer view, you can see what I'm talking about, the pipe down here. It goes right down through the floor. And those are a little closer. These are nice little pins. They slide in and out. So you have nice connections. And they're easy to disconnect. There's a poster on the wall here. Okay, I turned the lights out in the workshop, and I wanted to get some, the lights are on, and I wanted to get some shots just to show the effect of the lighting. There's only 2 LED bulbs in there, and they're quite bright, and they worked out beautifully for lighting the interior. That's looking in the front doors. Now, this is looking through the windows. So all 3 windows that are on the building, you can look in when the lights are out, and you can basically see, it's a nice interior scene. That's on the other side. Or I'm sorry, that's the, I believe that's on the other side. Another shot of it there. And that's on the back side. Just to give you an idea what it looks like with those 2 little lights. Those LEDs are very tiny, but they're quite bright. And it's just a beautiful little interior scene. Now, what had happened is I wanted a water tank close to this building. So what I'd done, I had a cardboard tube, and I did board by board all the way around it, built a deck on the top, added a ladder with a service pipe, draining pipe here, a service pipe here, so that water can get to the machine shop. And there's another shot of it. We did a little bit of making this look like it was full of water. And again, you can see the pipes that are draining and filling. Now, this is where it sits on the layout. I wanted this building, when I started building it, to be very similar to the engine house, which is over here. This is quite a large building. And this is number 2 in the series of buildings, going to be 3 of them. And I'm going to do the car shed, repair shed, that on the next time. And this is where I have the building. This is the stack that I put next to the building, which actually they burn the coal in here, and that provides the heat to the machine shop. And there's that little water tank, which supplies water to the machine shop. And that's another view looking the other way. See, the road comes in, they can bring their engines, or they can come from here if they need an engine, take the diesel engine out, bring it over, and it can be repaired with other repairs. So you can see the 2 buildings are very similar to each other. So I have one more to build, and the other one sits, you can just see the corner of it here. This is a plastic Volmer kit that I built when I first got into model railroading, but I want to replace it with a building that's going to look more like this, but not quite as wide. And that's a bit of a close-up showing the entrance into the machine shop. And it actually turned out quite well. It fits in well where it sits, and I was quite happy with it. And it was a fun little project. And that's the end. Any questions?
Gary, I got one for you. I've built models all my life, and probably on every one of them, I've made some kind of a stupid mistake. I just wondered, did you make any stupid mistake on building this one?
I did.
Want to share it with us?
Well, what had happened, I showed you the method how I do the walls. And I'm going to just flip back here quickly. And here we are. Okay. What I had done with this building, when I started painting these walls, I used a method that I had learned, and it's called dabbing. And what you do is you have a palette with 3 or 4 different colors. You start off with a basic color, and then you dab. You don't fill it in like with a paintbrush. And you continue to dab and with all the different colors, blending as you go along. And so this is what I had done. And if I can go back through here far enough back, sorry for the flipping. So, oh, here we are. Okay. You can see what happened here. This, you know, using this method, the first time I ever used it. And what happened was I was dabbing, and then you can see this bright red that I have on here, which was my base color. And I had also put other colors over top of it, which were browns and oranges. And the more I did it, I actually overdid it. The more I did it. So what I did was I went over with quite a bit of orange and brown. And you can see, you know, the different shades. Now, I know that one of the questions that was asked was, why didn't you put white mortar lines? Well, all buildings aren't white mortar lines. So what I done was I used the 100 line shale and I started blending because I didn't like this look. It just wasn't what I was looking for. You can see different shades here. Here's reds, a little bit of oranges, the browns. So what I did was I went over with the shale. And as you can see, it looks quite gray. Well, what I did was when I painted the gray, this softened up a bit. But what I have done on this was I put a little too much of the stain on. You have to be very careful when you're using the stain. If you put a lot on your brush and you paint these bricks, it's going to come out this gray color. But I was able to get it to where I was happy with it. And what I did was I basically went over with a wet brush before this totally dried, and I was able to blend that gray in even more. So I like this method, but as you can see back here, it is really too gray.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was able to correct it. Now on the layout, and I wanted the gray also to be the mortar lines. I didn't want to use white because any of the industrial buildings I've ever seen that are older, they don't have white mortar lines. They have like gray or black or some other weird color. So that's basically what I was looking for. Sorry for flipping so fast, but
Yeah.
you can see here there is a lot of gray on this building, and when you compare it to the engine house that I had showed you back here in this one, this is more red.
Yeah.
I would have liked this to have come out more like this. So what I'm going to do on my the third one that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a different method than the dabbing. I'm going to use dabbing, but I'm going to use a different method on it.
Yep.
So we'll see how it comes out. You can see the gray here and a little bit, but not a whole bunch. This one's a little lighter in color. So basically I just say, okay, this is older than this.
Gary, the reason I asked the question, I think it's important for modelers to understand that, you're a highly skilled, talented modeler, but we all make mistakes and we all just keep modeling until we get it right or until
definitely
like we want it. And there's no cookie cutter easy way to become a modeler. You try and try again.
Yeah, like whenever I scratch build a building, something always goes wrong.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone's perfect, but what you do is you learn from those mistakes and you take those mistakes and utilize them. Like when I was doing the boards, this is interesting. And I sort of like the effect. When I was doing the boards, some of these boards came out short.
Mm.
So what I thought was when I did it, I thought, okay, these are going to be rotted out bottom pieces. And you can see one here and a few here. And it just adds a little bit of character. But basically, I didn't measure properly. So it was the same when I did the, sorry for flipping so fast, but when I was working on the roof and I started doing the trusses. Okay, if we go back to where I did the jig, okay, here we are here. Now, I cut all the material because I knew how many trusses I wanted, so I knew how much material I had to cut. But when I put all these together, as you can see, they're not perfect. Some are a little, a little higher, a little lower. But when you put the thing together, as I did here, it all works out. Because you're putting a big sheet over top of this. So you're not going to see those tiny little imperfections. Now, I know there's modelers out there that are, we call them rivet counters. But hey, I've scratch built a lot of buildings over the years, and I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned a lot also.
That's what modeling's all about, Gary. Thanks so much for helping.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, Jim. Thanks a lot.
And next week, Gary starts something, a brand new project, building Walter's company store. This is a plastic kit, and I guarantee you, by the time that Gary gets through building it, you will swear that it is a wood craftsman kit. It's just something to see the creativity that he uses to take this plastic kit and turn it into a craftsman kit. Gary, we're looking forward to that. Well, now next I'd like to turn to Steve Sherrill for Steve's What Do You Want to Talk About? So welcome, Steve. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I had my segment all prepared until we started tonight. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about you, Jim Kello, Master Modelera, and your efforts to live a dream that you had to put a show on to share modeling with other model railroaders. I've only been associated with this for about 18 months. And as I stated before the show started, when the O-Scale magazine came out today, and I didn't get to see the magazine and your article, it kind of affected me. Things don't usually do that. But I just think that we owe you a big thank you. And I don't know how, other than our participation in supporting this show, is our only way of, I believe, showing it to you that we really care. I just want to thank you very much for letting me be a small part of it. I've enjoyed, being on the show and the opportunity to share what modeling I've had over the 70 years I've been doing it. Met some modelers. And again, I just want to thank you. And I think everybody who's tuned in today ought to have something to say about, exactly what you've done for us. And so, again, you're a real gentleman, and I just want to thank you again.
Well, that's awfully nice of you. I didn't know you were going to do this. I do appreciate it. Sometimes I wonder, if it's worth it, whether anybody really cares. I probably spend, and I'm not trying to blow my horn here, I probably spend 10 hours a day, either on the articles or on this show or on my own modeling. And that's my life right now. That's what I enjoy doing. I do feel an obligation to try to give back to our hobby. I am extremely worried that the people who have modeling capabilities and skills aren't being asked enough to pass that knowledge and skill on to the next generation. I am concerned that the next generation is not building models. I think that we could easily lose some of what, in my mind, makes this hobby so wonderful. At the same time, I read something today that says that I'm living in the past, in effect. And the past is nothing more than my memories. Well, I guess what I've been trying to do this last 6 years is really try to pass my memories of a wonderful time in my hobby on to the next generation so that they can have an opportunity to create their own future memories. That to me is what mentoring is all about. That's the best that we can do. That's really all that we have to offer. If nobody cares about our memories, if no one cares about where this hobby has come from, what it used to be in the 30s and the 40s, 1930, 1940. In 20 years, that, you know, people may not be around that remember what it was back then to be a model railroader. What was it like in the 1950s to wake up Christmas morning and find that new Lionel under the Christmas tree? What was that emotion? With your dad sitting on the floor with you while you learned how to run that Lionel train around that circular track, where that new transformer you never imagined you'd ever have, all of a sudden Santa gave you, or that new accessory that Lionel came out with that you had to have, all of a sudden that was one of your Christmas presents. And who remembers using the cardboard that used to come in your dad's shirts when he got them back from the cleaners? Because frankly, that was the only building material that your mom and dad didn't care what you did with it. So you could cut that up and that could become your next building because it was available to you. And you enjoyed building with it. You didn't know it was scratch building. To you, it was what Frank Ellison was building for his model railroad at the time. And back in those days, Frank Ellison was the father of model railroading. And building in cardstock, building in paper, watching him run that brand new Lionel train around his layout. That's what I envied. I wanted to do that. That was the hobby that I wanted.
Well, you got some influence on me. Now I'm starting to watch more and more streetcar and trolleys.
Well, it's so funny. You stop and think about it. The only reason that I got involved in trolley modeling is because the person that I wanted to teach me how to build in brass was a trolley modeler. And if I wanted to learn how to build in brass, I had to learn to build what he wanted to build, and that was a trolley. So he'd say, let's build this trolley. And so we build the same trolley together, and then we pick each other trolleys apart best we could. That's how I learned to build in brass.
I saw on YouTube the other day, Jim, where a guy he'd scratch built 5,000 trolley cars.
Jeez.
And he showed them, just a layout, 5,000. I mean, it's that's just unbelievable that anybody could build that many models scratch built, and he started in the 30s doing it, and he carried it on. But everything was just as it should be, all scale, So, of course, I rode trolleys when I was young. So I had a little bit of love for them. But, I'm like you, we're almost the same age. When you relate to what you did in the beginning, I was so proud when I got that first reverse loop wired, I didn't know what to do with myself. But in order to throw the switch, I had to use I can't remember what the name of it is right now. A wire switch. You threw it just like, you just did things. I mean, I ran a track on a piece of lath. I didn't have a board type of thing. I had a friend in Florida, and his parents took me down to Florida on a trip, and I packed my train in that suitcase. That was one thing I was hauling with me, was down there. And we hooked, set it up under his bed, and we played trains. I mean, that was just a way of life, But I've been around a lot of great modelers my whole life, and they were all good people too. And I just, want to thank you for what you've done for model railroading.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate it. Well, listen, while we're just reminiscing here, anybody else got any comments that they want to reminisce about? Come on, guys. I know you've got some memories out there.
Well, one of the things I'd like to say, Jim, since I've been on the program, is I've totally changed the way I build models.
That's scary.
What I have learned on new tracks has helped me so much that I now do things and finish my models differently than I have probably in the last 25 years. I just learned from so many people that have been on the show, all different techniques, and I'm now putting those techniques into what I model. So it's been, for me, it's been a very educational journey.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad you enjoy it. Anybody else? What do you want to see on the show? We're going to be starting 2024 soon. What do you want to see? What do you want to talk about?
I'd like to see some of the original models that people made. You know, I've got a few that are on the shelf that from the 1970s that I could share, that I put up. They were HO. Some of them are modified HO to HON3.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been all through all the scales, you know, in scale too. But it's just, I'd love to see them. If you ask some of the old greats, you got one of the first models you ever built, you know what they'll say? Oh no, I threw that away. That wasn't good enough. You can't look back at your old mistakes, you know, and laugh. I think there's a lot of humor in modeling. When you make a mistake, laugh about it. Go on, you know. Don't be discouraged. You know, we got Ethan, who is the future. I mean, he's there. He's going to be a leader. You know, I believe he's certainly going to a great school. He's very intelligent. You know, so he's participating right now in the NMRA. So there's a guy we can look to the future. I'm sure we're going to see his articles in some of the national magazines. And
well, you know, when you got the president of the NMRA and the president of the local N-scale club that he belongs to in Baltimore, both willing to be able to be recommending him for the scholarship and willing to come on the show and to talk about him the way that they did. Gordon couldn't be here because of the situation, but I do know that he wanted to be. That says something about the quality of the person that we're bringing along in the hobby. And I think we got an obligation as model railroaders to help these young people. That's the reason for our scholarships. That's what that's all about. It's expensive as it can be to go to college these days. I mean, you hear about the student loan situation all the time. Well, we're model railroaders, and if we want the young people to be model railroaders, to me, one of the ways that we can encourage that is to offer them a scholarship if they're going to continue their education in one of the STEAM programs. The same reason that I agreed to be the ambassador for the Professional Association of Model Makers. Because if they want to, there's a career path for model builders. And model railroaders, they agree, I think, gain the skills and the ability to become professional model makers if that's what they want to do. So you become a young model maker, a young model railroader, and you've got a possible career path. You got a possible scholarship to help you with your education. I think that's two reasons to get involved in model railroading as a young person. And I think we ought to encourage it.
well, I always try to encourage it. I think that the more we talk to the young people about it and we show our enthusiasm and excitement, it kind of transfers over to them. Now they're into a more computerized world now where we're, you know, still cranking the front end of a Model T. But I just think that the more that we can share what we know, I mean, these people don't know everything. they may think they do, but if we just show them one or two things that is going to help them, I think that is going to be a big influence on them.
Steve, I think what you and Jim are talking about, one of the best things that this show ever did was have its shows copied onto YouTube, because I know from my son and some of my friends' grandchildren that YouTube is big still among all the different generations. A lot of the other applications, they're for old people or young people, but YouTube catches everyone. And having all of your shows, all of the mentoring, all of the build-alongs, everything that's done on YouTube is just putting it out there for everyone to see, including young people. And I think that was one of the best decisions you ever made.
Yes, I do too. And you don't have to, you can refer back to these shows 6 months from now,
Yeah, or maybe 6 years from now. Who knows how long this legacy will go on?
That's right.
As long as YouTube has servers, they'll be there.
I mean, you can look up Jim Kello and this show is going to come up all the time, so I just.
Yeah, but let's be realistic here, guys. This is not Jim Kello. This is the people that are doing the presentations on the shows. I don't come on this show every week and say, let me show you what I've built. Let me show you my model railroad. What comes on this show every week is 4 to 6 to 7 different people talking about, in effect, different subjects. And it's a way to try to expose the modeling community both to different kinds of hobbies that have skills that maybe no one has looked at before. Look at the skills that the military modelers have when they do their camouflage painting and some of the shading that they do on their figures. I mean, it's compared to what most model railroaders do. I mean, we're not even in contention with them. I mean, I look at some of their models and just wonder how in the world do they create that? So we got a lot to learn from other hobbies. But in the past, my experience has been model railroaders are model railroaders, and we don't ask any other hobby for help. It used to be that if you were a HO scale modeler, an O scale modeler had nothing to offer you. If you were an S scale modeler, an O scale modeler had nothing to offer to you because they didn't model in your scale, and this is how things were done in your scale. Well, I've modeled in a lot of different scales. I think the skills that we have are transferable. I don't think it makes a hoot holler whether you're an N scaler, HO, O scale, S. I don't think that makes any difference. If you can build a model, you can build a model. Scale doesn't make it, gauge doesn't make any difference. I don't care if you want to run a 3-rail Lionel engine in cars. If you've got scale scenery and you scratch built the buildings on your layout, you're a modeler in my book. And I've seen some absolutely gorgeous 3-rail layouts.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that. I mean, I see them all the time on YouTube. Of course, that third rail jumps out at you,
Well, it does, but at the same time, look at it this way. One of the things that we've tried to do from day one is promote the small manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
And try to give them every capability in the world. I don't ask for kits from them. There's no cost to them. The only cost to them being on the show is to give a discount to the viewers that want to buy their product and build it with the modeler on the show. So the manufacturer has to give the builder a modeler, so the builder doesn't have to buy it to build it. And he gives a discount to the people that want to buy his models and build it on the show with the person that's building it on the show. But I'm not asking him to kick in money or to pay us for the privilege of being on the show. What we're trying to do is promote his products and him. Well, that's all well and good, but that manufacturer needs to have a product that the modelers can build. And I have frankly had, and I'm not going to name names, but I have had builders get the model from the manufacturer and send me an email saying, these instructions are ridiculous. And so my response is, well, tell the manufacturer, don't tell me. Because I'm not going to do anything about that. That's not my problem. I assume the manufacturer can write the instructions and produce a product that represents him and that he's proud of. And that he wants to participate on our show. And if he's a small manufacturer in model railroading, I want to give him that opportunity. And he can either build his own product, or I'll do everything I can to find a modeler to build his product for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if his product is no good, it's going to be pretty obvious, because the modeler on the show, my philosophy, you build it like you get the kit. We don't play games with this. If it's a hard to build kit, tell us why it's such a hard to build kit. You've heard modelers on the show say, I'm really having trouble doing this or that or whatever. Well, then there's something wrong here. There's something, maybe the manufacturer can figure out a way in the future to make his kit easier to build. Because also I get comments from modelers who say, well, I'll never buy another kit from him. Or I threw the kit away because I just gave up. Well, who is that helping? It's not helping the modeler who gave up, because he's not going to build anything more. He's certainly not going to buy from that manufacturer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's certainly not going to say anything good about that manufacturer to his friends. So, what's the benefit here? So that to me is a problem that I recognize exists in our hobby. And my solution was to write the article, not to criticize the manufacturer on the show, but to write the article saying, hey, here's a problem, guys, that we need to look at.
Well, I think sometimes we don't read the instructions. We start reading and then we see the picture. And we go to the picture, skipping a couple of steps between the written information and the picture. And then all of a sudden you glued some things together and you got, oh my gosh, I misread or didn't read. And now you've got a problem taking it apart again to build it the right way. And so you get discouraged. If you have the funds to make a mistake where it doesn't hurt you, you just put it aside.
Yeah.
Maybe you buy another kit and do it right. Or maybe you just say, I'm not going to ever fool with that thing again. I mean, I started a kit, it took me 10 years to build once. and when I finished, it looked better than the guy who had designed it. I mean, in my opinion, because you couldn't even recognize it was his kit. So, but it took me 10 years. I just, set it aside until I decided how I wanted to build it.
Yep.
But one other problem that I have on my particular railroad is everything is finished. The buildings are finished. Now, good kits come out. This is pre-laser. And now you say, oh my gosh, do I take this scene off and start over again? And you just hate to do it. I mean, I did that once and I sat a year looking at that empty space and I was really upset. Wish I could never done it, still do, but I did it. And this is part of model railroading. I mean, you make mistakes and you go on. I mean,
it's called trying. The key to modeling is you got to try.
Yeah, well,
I think one of the best things about making mistakes is it challenges you to find a way to either correct it or hide it.
Yep.
And in doing so, you probably learn 2 or 3 new skills. I know I have a lot of things that I hid, and I found out, another process in doing that I could then use on other things where I wasn't trying to hide something. It just became another tool in my toolbox.
Yeah. The back of that building looks almost as good as the front.
Well, but a lot of modelers, they think I've got to be a perfectionist. It's got to be perfect or people will laugh at me. Well, I've never built a perfect anything. You know, I've built something that I enjoy, that I think is pretty good, that I think is finished, and that I stopped building it. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it looks awfully good.
Well, we are our own critics. We're our worst critics. We spot every mistake, every place we, smudge the paint. We know where it is, and nobody else ever notices it. We almost have to point it out to them, but there's a lot of fun in model railroading, really. I mean, I've had many years, I could sit here and tell you stories about when in 1952, when I was in Cub Scouts. My Cub Scout leader was a model railroader, a well-known model railroader, who used to do 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter films of trains. And he would be acknowledged even today. If you saw him, his name is in there. And his son is one of the premier O-scale modelers in the country. And so that's what I saw when I saw him. And of course,
Steve, I think the subject we're getting onto is the fact that there's a lot of us here that have models in a layout or in a train layout that we have not seen, that would probably be great to see on New Tracks maybe once in a while. And if some of us would send in short videos, like I did once, on their layout that represents what they're doing and what they're proud of, it would be a great thing to show off at every one of these shows. Just a little bit of it. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out layout display on a video, but short ones. And it leaves you with a question, how did he do that? Like the trestle behind me, I scratch built. But they see that and they say, gee, I wonder how he did all those bends on that trestle. Well, that'll give me a reason to show it later on. But that's how you attract people to a show, is when you show them stuff that you've done, like they're doing on my build. I'm not taking away from my build, but I'm saying on a layout. A lot of us here have some kind of a layout or a module that we're proud of or show off once in a while. But I have not seen much of that on this show, and we should do that maybe once in a while. That's my opinion, anyway, for what it counts.
I totally agree. I think that would be great. I wish we could get something like that every show. We've got time. We can schedule these in.
It takes a few minutes.
Right. Yeah. You see, right now, our shows are running roughly 2 hours a time.
Yeah.
And we're pretty well booked through December of this year already. Well, we can change around some of that, if we want to. And if people say, I'd really like to see this kind of thing, that's fine. That's the kind of input that we need at this point. We're getting ready to go into a brand new year. This will be our 5th year of doing these shows, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Think of the man hours that has gone into 5 years of putting on these shows at least once a week. And keep in mind, part of that time we did train shows, and the train shows were lasting 4 hours a time. And I think we did 4 different train shows and had to give up because we couldn't find the volunteers to run the shows. Well, we were doing those shows. I think the last one we had over 1,000 viewers watching that show. Well, it's hard these days to get 1,000 people to go to a trade show. Well, we were getting 1,000 people watching a Zoom train show where each manufacturer was given 5 minutes to talk about his product and show his product.
Yep. And we can see that on a lot of people's layouts. We all have something on that layout that represents a manufacturer.
Take a picture and send it in. You can be number one, and we'll go from there. You too, Steve. You've got a beautiful layout. You send in some pictures of it. And
what if the caboose feature was people sending in videos of their layout?
Yeah, that's right.
We asked them to do that months ago, and
Yeah, we didn't get anybody.
and we got zilch from that.
I did one.
That's right, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'd love to see that happen.
I'll do one.
Good.
All we got to do is have people want to send in short video, and these don't have to be hour videos because this is not a video show.
And
This is
Steve's
a-
got a layout.
This is
got
a
a layout.
short videos where the person sending it in can talk through it and explain, this is a trestle. I built this way. It is like this, blah, 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 and talk about it so that people understand what they're seeing. It's kind of like, here's a photo of X. Well, what does X look like? You know, how did you build X?
If you have a train running over it, they'll really look at it.
Particularly if it falls off the trestle.
Train wreck.
My problem is I don't have a skill to take that video, you know?
You just need a camera that takes videos, or you can use your iPhone, or you could use your iPad.
I've done that.
Use your cell phone and send it to Pat. Pat is the expert.
Oh, I'm not an expert. Don't believe me. I got Gary doing it now, but I told him I had one ready for tonight.
But I'm serious. All it takes is your cell phone.
Just a short one.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, give it to somebody to do it for you.
Yeah. Therefore, you can be in it. You know,
That's right.
You don't even have to shave, Steve. You know, you can just be
exactly.
bearded.
Put on your dirty old hat and look coveralls and be part of that thing.
All right, guys, enough of this.
All right.
Listen, we're running into our 2-hour time frame here. So, Pat, how about running our caboose for us?
I'll get it up here. Just bear with me. Here we come.
That has a new firebox. Number 2 is the smallest diesel locomotive on the property. While you see it moving 105 there, it can also move our 2 big locomotives, 33 included in that, by itself, onto and off the table. It's a very inexpensive little engine to run. The turntable was built in 1940 for the Western Maryland, Hagerstown, Maryland, for the new Challenger-type locomotives, steam locomotives that were being purchased from Baldwin for freight service on the Western Maryland. Now, many years after that, the whole property at Hagerstown was...
And Pat, where was that taken?
That was taken at the Age of Steam Roundhouse in Sugar Creek, Ohio. It was a worthwhile trip. If you ever get a chance to go, go. Because Gary was there with me, and that was an amazing, amazing place to see.
Well, Pat and Gary are going to come back on a future show with some photos of their trip there. I think you'll really enjoy it because hearing about how the roundhouse was built and the construction of it and everything is really something. And I think you'll really enjoy it. So, Pat, we're looking forward to that sometime in January when you and Gary can get your stuff together and come back on the show.
We'll give it a shot.
Literally. Thanks so much for the show. We appreciate it. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, we hope you learned something. It's been a real thrill to be able to get the shows to this point, and we hope you enjoy it. Please help us promote them. Please donate to our scholarship, and we'll see you next week.